Welcome back. You're still tuned into the Friday edition of the nation's most favorite breakfast show, Good Morning Namibia. Now, the 27th session of the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference, the UNFCCC, is set to take place in Egypt from the 6th to the 18th of November 2022. The conference, as others before it, will bring governments together to accelerate global efforts to confront the climate crisis and also to address issues related to the sustainable development mechanism. Namibia will also be represented at the conference, and joining us with more on the conference is the Environmental Commissioner in the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, Mr. Timoteus Mufeti. Good morning, sir, and welcome to Good Morning Namibia.
Good morning.
So now, given the visible impact of climate change, certainly on the globe, but also on the African continent and even in Namibia, how does Namibia view the significance of COP27?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. We are happy that we are able again to undertake this United Nations, which is an annual conference of the parties, which is taking place in Africa. And based on that, we value this to be an African COP, not only because it's taking place here in Africa, but it's also taking place in the African continent, which has been perceived to be one of the severely impacted upon continent by impacts of climate change, and which is also very vulnerable. And we are not saying this as Africans and from ourselves. This assessment is well known at the convention. It's in the report of IPCC, which is an intergovernmental panel for climate change, that Africa as a continent, even though we are contributing less, which is
a mere 3%, we understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, when the atmosphere is polluted, and we know very well that the atmosphere does not have boundaries. When it's polluted, everybody gets equally impacted upon. And as a continent, because of our circumstances, capacity to adapt, capacity to mitigate, capacity to resources that we have, or our small economies, we are one of the most impacted. So at this COP, which is in Africa, we are going really to use this opportunity to bring up front our case and make sure that our issues are in forefront. And the Namibian position for this COP is that we align ourselves with the African position. And one of them is that for many, many COPs now, as you are saying, this is 27th meeting of this nature is taking place. We have been discussing, we have been negotiating, we have been planning. We have been committing what we want to do. So we feel like as an African continent, we should now move into the implementation. So this should be really an implementation COP. We should not go anymore and talk what we want to do. We want to see now action. What are we going to do? How are we going to implement those strategies that we have agreed upon? For example, developed countries have committed money, $100 billion per year.
We are yet to see those resources flow towards the African continent. Contextualizing why we as a continent are particularly vulnerable, you mentioned our limited capacity to mitigate the impact, but also to adapt. Why are we struggling with that capacity?
We are struggling because, of course, we don't have sufficient technology. And this is also one of the issues we are going to hammer on. We want the technology transfer going to us. How are we going to implement what we want to implement? Capacity building, we know that our economies are very small. We are a rich continent, but we all know that resources on the table for African countries are very small. Loss and damages caused by the impact of climate change affect more Africans, or not only Africans, but also other developing countries in the world and the regions. And those are the issues we are going to really bring on the table, that we need to see how now African countries, other developing countries are going to be assisted by developed countries who happen to be the significant polluters, unfortunately.
That speaks to the heart of the matter, and these developed countries have made this commitment. How will we as developing countries, how will we as a continent get these developed countries to honor that commitment?
I think this is what we are going to put on the table. We are going to be very hard on the negotiation table on those issues. We want to see a roadmap. How are we going to get those money? And we want grant-based finance. We don't want loans, because these are the people who are polluting our atmosphere. They are the biggest culprit. And I think the time is up now for talk and talk and talk and talk. But we really want to see, now show us how are we going to get that money committed and delivered to developing countries from day one. I think those are going to be the issues on the table for us. And as a Namibia, this is what we are going to push when we are sitting on those negotiation tables.
Now, to cement the Namibian story, we understand that Namibia will also have a pavilion in Egypt. Please talk to us about the pavilion, sir.
No, we are very excited about that. For the first time, we are going to have a pavilion where, as a Namibian, as a country, we are going to have a venue, a platform where we are going to showcase our efforts, what we are doing at the national level, what activities are we implementing to combat the impact of climate change. So we have our house there. And we will have a lot of meetings. The program is very packed. We have got 10 thematic areas that we are going to focus on. There will be presentations that will take place. There will be round tables. There will be panel discussions. And the highlight really what are our issues, what are we doing, what support do we need. We are going to bring our partners, our friends. We are going to learn from them. And that's what we are going to do at that pavilion. We also may be worth mentioning that in addition to that, we expect His Excellency Dr. Hage Geingob to also launch our national strategy on green hydrogen, and which outline how Namibia is planning to move forward, which is at a very, very advanced stage on how are we going to unlock those benefits from Karasa region, that program that is very big for Namibia.
Indeed, and the strategy will in fact also be launched in Windhoek this morning at State House. We do know, Mr. Mufeti, that fighting the devastation brought about by the effects of climate change is not a one-person show. Briefly talk to us about the critical importance of private-public collaboration to help enhance the efforts.
Yeah, that is true. And this week, our Deputy Minister have received donations from private sector. We managed to receive more than 1.2 million from private sectors who are also impacted upon by climate change. Climate change affects businesses. They damage businesses. If we have got flood, we have got a drought. We are all in one basket. So we really have to, as a country, come together. This is not only a government show, it's not only a government problem, it's all of us problem. That's why we really have to put our effort together. So we are very happy that business people, private sector, academic institution, research, individuals have come on board to really be part of this journey and support government on what we are doing. And then Namibia to come up with our own plan, how are we going to mitigate, how are we going to adapt to this problem, which we have already started to see the effect of climate change on our doorstep. So we are very grateful. So they will be involved. They will be at the COP. So far we've registered more than 80 participants or delegates from Namibia, which involve business people, different institutions, academic entities, youth, women, all those groups, so they will be there.
Mr. Mufeti, you're leaving for Cairo later today, so we need to let you go. Any final thoughts this morning, please?
No, I think as a final thought, We are going to use this opportunity, this COP, or this conference, really to put the Namibian case on the table. We are going to make sure that we move from talk into action, as we have said. Namibia, as I said, Africa is vulnerable. Namibia is even more vulnerable because of our circumstances and the characteristics of our country. So we are going to hammer on those issues. But, and we hope that by the end of the COP we have got a pathway, we have got a roadmap. We are happy at all these issues that we have been negotiating are now going to be implemented. And in addition to that, we want to use this opportunity to also market our country. We are going to talk to our people. We are going to show what we have here. The Namibian Investment Board will be there. We will bring our friends together and also use it as an opportunity to advertise our country and get more investments.
Absolutely.
And learn from our partners and get more resources.
So thank you for your time. Please travel safely and may the deliberations be fruitful.
Thank you so much.
That was Mr. Timoteus Mufeti, Environmental Commissioner in the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism, talking to us about COP27 that will be taking place in Egypt next week. According to him, the time for only talking should be something of the past. The time for action is now.